Hello, I'm Brett Gilliland, host of the Circuit of Success podcast, and here's what's coming up on the show.
Are you challenging yourself every day? Are you having new experiences? Are you looking for ways to expand your life, both in opportunity and in resources? And ask yourself that. Who's in control? I mean, I happen to be a control freak, so that was an easy question for me at that point in time.
Yeah.
Do I want to be in control of my life, or do I want somebody else in control of my life?
And do you think that you've always believed in yourself, or is that a muscle that you've built over time? Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland, and today I've got Sharon Lechter with me. Sharon, how you doing?
I am fantastic, Brett. Thanks so much. Look forward to talking to you.
Oh, look forward to it. I've been looking forward to this interview for a while. You're going to see me holding this book if you're getting to watch this. You've probably seen this a time or 4,000 times, and this is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You are the co-author with Robert Kiyosaki on that, and it's cool. I read this again in 2022, so I wrote down. For years I write down when I read the book, and can able to do the math on my age and stuff. And so I originally read this book in 2002 when I was 24 years old, and I read it again last year in March when I was 44 years old. So kind of crazy to think, the things you get from one book, reading it as a 24-year-old and now as a 44-year-old, you connect a little different with it. And so I reached out to you and I said, hey, I got to have you on the podcast. And you were kind enough to respond. And here we are. So that being said, you've done that. You've written tons of books, and you've had you're a 5-time New York Times bestseller, an author, a successful entrepreneur, philanthropist, CPA, you name it. You've been doing it. I'll shut up now and let people talk to Sharon Lechter. So if you can, Sharon, tell us a little bit more about what's made you the woman you are today.
Well, thanks, Brett. Yes, when I first started, I lived in a very lower middle class house with my parents. We had a little house between my mom's beauty shop and my dad's used car lot, and we owned rental properties. So I've been in real estate investing since I was 10. I had to go scrub out the bathrooms between tenants. And we were orange groves, and I swore I would never be an entrepreneur. I saw my friends whose parents were CEOs of companies or military officers, and I said, that's what I want. I want to become a sophisticated professional. So I went to college, got my degree in accounting. I was one of the very first women in public accounting in Atlanta, Georgia, single, CPA, having fun in Atlanta. About the ripe old age of 25, I realized my parents were pretty smart, because I was working incredible hours and not in control of my life. And I said, this is crazy. So I had the opportunity one of my clients invited me to go into a company. He was buying out of bankruptcy, actually, to invest in a new company. It's like, okay. So I went back to my condo and said pros and cons. Back then it was before PCs, so the old yellow legal pad.
The old T-chart.
That's right. And it didn't help me a bit, because I could argue both sides. Mobile, rising career in public accounting versus the opportunity to own a piece of the rock. And so my hand kind of took off across the top of the page and wrote, why not? And that really is still my mantra today. Why not do something different? Why not solve a problem, serve a need? Why not take the path less traveled? And I think in our society today, too many people ask the question, why, waiting for somebody to tell you what you should do. And why not comes from within. Why not do something that you need to do that can solve a problem or serve a need? So that's really been my mantra. I left public accounting, met my husband, then I've never looked back. Started women's magazines, talking children's books, and then on to Rich Dad. So
amazing. So when you think about that, we can go back in time, and that's scary, I would assume, right? Because one was assuming on the T-chart we were talking about, the left side, let's call it the accounting side, had a guaranteed paycheck, probably, right? It had a check coming in every 2 weeks, and health insurance, probably, all these things. Whereas the one on the right side, it didn't have any of that, I would assume. And so when you think about that Sharon Lechter, and you think about the person right now that's struggling with that of, I want to follow my dream and this passion, but man, there's no guaranteed success there versus this every day, every 2 week check. What would you tell that person right now?
Well, sometimes you have to close the door for other doors of opportunity to open. When I made that decision, it turned out to be the worst business decision of my life, Brett. But as Napoleon Hill says, out of adversity comes a seed of an equal or greater opportunity. Had I not made the decision to leave public accounting, I would never have met my husband, Mike Lechter, and we've been married 42 years. So my worst business decision became my best life decision. But if you're in that position where you have to make a decision between something that's safe and secure, you think it's secure, ask yourself truly how secure it is, versus something that is something new, a new experience. And again, ask yourself, why not try something different? Because there are lots of reasons why not. If it's not legal, don't do it. But I think people we change is inevitable, and as the world has proven over and over again, the safe, secure job no longer exists. So are you doing are you challenging yourself every day? Are you having new experiences? Are you looking for ways to expand your life, both in opportunity and in resources? And ask yourself that. Who's in control? I mean, I happen to be a control freak, so that was an easy question for me at that point in time.
Yeah.
Do I want to be in control of my life, or do I want somebody else in control of my life?
And do you think that you've always believed in yourself, or was that a muscle that you've built over time?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
I was raised in a home where I was told I could do anything I wanted to. And if you imagine my age, I was many, many times the only woman in the room. I started my career before they even had the term glass ceiling. And we just knew that if we wanted to succeed, we had to work harder than men. But I never looked at it as a male versus female thing. And
Yeah.
for me, it's you just make that decision to continue moving forward. That being said, there were many times when I was insecure, not sure what I was going to do, afraid, fearing of what was going to happen, and but I would come back to you either win or you learn something. Right? There's no win lose. You win or you learn, and so I would act in spite of the fear. Courage is acting in spite of fear, not because of it. So.
Yeah. So, and again, back on those early days, I mean, what was the grind like? Yes, now you've got all these different revenue sources and income, and I know you're very open about talking about money. So that's why I asked the question but what was it like when you didn't have money and you didn't have so many different revenue sources? What was it like back then?
Well, you have to make choices.
Yeah.
I started working when I was 15, and so my father and mother instilled those money habits into me really early on. And so I always lived within my means, and understood that I was very kind of alone in that process. A lot of my friends were getting into debt. But you have to make choices. You make choices that work within your budget, give you the opportunity to set money aside, and today it's even more important to pay attention to where the cash flow is going. With
Yeah.
every dollar you receive, you have a choice. You can keep it and invest it and have it work for you, or you can spend it and it goes away. And so if more and more people understood that and made different choices, they'd be in a much different financial position.
Yeah. Yeah. And what have you learned over the years from obviously yourself? There's lots of learning, but I'll just pick on Robert Kiyosaki. Obviously, he's had an immense amount of success along with you. And then you think of, I know you've advised or worked with now 3 different presidents, right? You have George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump before he was president. So we're not talking politics here. I can't stand talking politics. But when you think of those 3 people that made it to the most, the highest level you could possibly make as being the president of the United States, what have you learned from people like that over the years that makes them different?
Well, I think without a doubt, I when I wrote 3 Feet from Gold, which was my first book with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, I talk about the personal success equation. So let me frame it within that, because
Perfect.
you have your passion and your talent. So you look at those 3 men and you can pretty much know what their passion, their talent was. Um, I had my passion for financial literacy. We're not teaching kids about money in school, so it made me angry. That was my passion. My talent was my background in accounting, my background in publishing. And most of us stop there. But true success, and all of those individuals you just talked about, their success was through that power of association, surrounding themselves with the right people, surrounding themselves with people who are strong where they are weak, understanding how to get in the right rooms, and in times take action. right? Your action, how many times do we know what we're supposed to do? We just don't do it. And so being action takers, every one of those people you mentioned are action takers. And the last one is faith and confidence, having faith in yourself. I don't think any of them had a lack of confidence in themselves, but many of us do. All right. And so when I start mentoring people, I go through that formula: passion plus talent times association times action plus faith. And invariably, the areas that need the most work are association and faith. Most people don't have the right people around them, or they've outgrown the people in their circle and they haven't taken the step to expand their associations. And they don't have enough confidence. They don't think they're good enough. They think, they think the luck has passed them by. And they go hand in hand. When you have the right people around you and you have a bad day, they won't let you stay there. So do you have a mentor? Do you have somebody who's pushing you in the right direction? Are you hanging out with people who challenge you and want you to do better? If not, maybe you need to look at your associations and have the right guide. Because what happens is when we are in the wrong place, our confidence starts waning, and that they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I love that. So passion plus talent times association plus
Times action, times action,
times
and then
action.
all of that together plus faith and confidence in yourself.
Yep.
You can go to personalsuccessequation.com. I have an ebook that helps take you through that formula for your own life,
Okay.
giving you some suggestions, some thought-provoking things, and it's free. Personalsuccessequation.com.
Personalsuccessequation.com. All right. We will put that in the link here in the show notes. But that's, and you're so right. I mean, the passion part is, and then you said earlier, your personal mantra, why not? I also, in my research, saw that your mission is to play big again. And so when you think about that, is you do have to know what your passions are. And, as you see on my mic here, maybe not on but it talks about future greater than your past, right? And that's our mission. That's our firm's mission. That's my mission. And it's become my passion of helping others. That's when time stops for me or speeds up, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But it's like when you're working in that passion field, time just stands still, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, nothing that I ever do feels like work because it's not
Right.
drudgery. You think work is drudgery. I do what I do because it makes me feel my purpose. I'm in purpose. When you are in purpose, it's not work.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. I just was at lunch and going through getting my sandwich, and the guy said, we had a bunch of snow here today, and I'm in St. Louis on the Illinois side, but a bunch of snow. They canceled school yesterday, all this stuff, or today. And he says, oh, you're one of the unlucky ones that had to go to work, huh? And I kind of looked at him. I said, nope. I said, I chose to go to work. I said, I love what I do. And it's, it makes you think as you kind of think about that comment, oh, you're one of the ones that had to go to work today. I mean, imagine feeling that. Right. And there's people driving down the road listening to this maybe right now. They feel that same way. They're driving to work. But how have you chosen to get to do the things that you want to do and then have made a career making money out of it?
Well, I love what you just said because I literally just wrote an article for a book yesterday where we're talking about the power of words. You have the choice and control over three things: your thoughts, your words, your actions. And instead of saying, I have to go to work, say, I get to go to work, right?
Yeah.
One's negative, one's positive. So if we can control our thoughts and our words, we control our environment around us. And it's really important for people to think about, if you want to spend your day in drudgery, then you're attracting all the negativity by using those negative words. I have to go to work. If you can reframe your thoughts. So for instance, when it comes to money, you're bringing up money, we can't afford it. That's negative. You close your mind. You want to turn off the lights and get under the covers. It's depressing. And instead of saying I can't afford something, say how can I afford something? Do you feel the difference? It triggers your entrepreneurial spirit. It opens your mind, and your subconscious starts working towards how to solve that question and how to afford something that you want. And so the choice of your words are very, very important. Thoughts, words, and actions.
Yep. Yeah. So hence the name of this podcast, the Circuit of Success. One of the circuits, if you will, is action. I believe in your attitude, your belief system. Ultimately, the actions that you take get the results that you want to have in your life, right? So attitude, actions, beliefs. So I couldn't agree more because so many people just think, oh, I'll write it down on a piece of paper, this great business plan. but they don't take action, right? It stays in the top right drawer of your office desk or wherever, and they don't take action. So when you think about taking action, like what does your day look like when you wake up in the morning? Do you pre-plan it? Do you plan it as you go? What's that look like for you?
Well, every day is slightly different. I know overall what my long-term goals are, and I time block so that I can not have to worry about what's going on. I have time set aside. So, for instance, this morning I'm working on a new book. So I had time scheduled this morning that nothing else was happening except me accomplishing what I needed to on this new book. And so each of us has to think about how are we going to accomplish what works best for you. And you have short-term goals, you have long-term goals, and then you have immediate action. What can I get done first thing in the morning to make me feel better about myself? So it gives me the energy to keep going. Check off a few of those quick and easy things in the morning, and then start tackling the big ones.
Yeah. So if I stole your phone and looked at your calendar, would I see that book? Like, do you already know next Thursday or 3 Thursdays from now what's going on?
Pretty
Yeah.
much. I do a lot of time blocking, and right now I'm in the midst, as I said, of a new book. So there's you know, a lot of definite white space on my calendar that is for the book, and so it's
Yeah.
kind of like to everybody else is stay away.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's true for most successful people. I mean, I know I look at my calendar, I know things that are going on 4 months from now, right? I mean, you kind of just go ahead and, like you said, call it time blocking, put it in there and on repeat. I think that's important. And for you to know, if you have staff, for your staff to know, I mean, it's that communication almost without the communication is everybody knows what the calendar needs to look like. And then if we just show up and execute, we take action, do the things we need to do. That's the recipe for success, right? And so I want to go back a little bit to this book, the Rich Dad Poor Dad, because this was, I would assume this is the one that kind of started it all. Would you agree with that?
From a standpoint of the personal finance brand, yes,
Yeah,
Rich Dad,
yeah,
came out with a game, and as I was helping Robert with the game, he told me he wanted to charge $200 for it, and I said that's kind of pricey because I was just helping him as a friend, and
yeah,
said maybe you need to write a brochure for the game that explains the philosophy that would encourage people to spend that much money. And that's when he asked me to become his partner. And that brochure we wrote was Rich Dad Poor Dad. We never expected it to be the huge hit on its own, and so the
yeah.
world just took over. And that was the first of 15 books we wrote together in building the Rich Dad brand around the world.
Wow. Oprah have a little something to do with that? Did that help?
Yes, she did. Well, we actually made it to all the lists on our own. We worked really hard, and I literally was packaging books up in my living room, my dining room table, because this was before Amazon, before the
Yeah.
internet, believe it or not, dinosaur times. And so I knew how we could get into the bookstores from a standpoint of information. And we would do radio broadcasts all over the world, and they would go on to the Ingram at that time to find the publisher of this book. So I'd wake up in the morning there'd be a pile of orders on my fax machine, and I'd package books one at a time out to bookstores all over the world. And that's
Wow.
in January of 2000. We released in 1997, April of 97. And in January of 2000, we hit all the major lists. And then in April of 2000, we got the phone call from Oprah, which of course helped us just 10x from there. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. That is amazing. So when you look back on your career now, what would you tell the 35-year-old Sharon Lechter? What advice would you give her?
Well, I ask that question a lot. What your 16-year-old, your 20-year-old self, and I always kind of answer the same way, Brett, because I wouldn't be who I am today if it weren't for all the things that happened to me before today, good
Yeah.
and bad. And so I try not to look back. I just try to look forward. But for any young person that I'm speaking to, I talk about the importance of being true to yourself, because each and every one of you was created to be the perfect rendition of you, not me, not Brett, not someone else. And so you have a role to play on earth. You have a purpose. So stand in your own power and find your purpose and make decisions that are right for you and your family. And we don't, we live, too many of us live in the world of shoulda, coulda, woulda, and we have to think about what can I do, what's possible, and look to
Yeah.
the future. We are all today where we are today because of the choices we made before today. And if you want something different, something better, something more, start making different choices today.
Yep. And what's that process for you like when you think, okay, I got to make different choices? Are you a planner? Are you like, do you have certain times throughout the year you do goal planning, goal strategies? Like, how do you make a change in maybe a habit or a new thing that you're going to go out and do?
Well, things change based on what quarter of your life you're in. I mean, obviously, I've been financially free since I was 38, but we still have goal setting and time where we think about the multiple businesses that we own as well as our personal life. And
Yeah.
so we think about, family comes first. What do we want? We just literally came back 2 weeks ago from being in Costa Rica with our family for 2 weeks. That takes a lot of planning, lots of different schedules for one of us. And I think it's really important to focus on one big life. As too many of us think about work or money, and we have to really think about our faith, our finances, our friends, our fitness, our all of that comes together to have one big life. And if I could change anything in the past, it would be to focus on making sure we don't lose sight of one of those things because of the importance of another. And it's, we
Yeah.
only get around this world once, and we need to make the most of it. And I know too many people who get to the end of their life and they have a lot of money, but they've lost their relationships along the way.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have very wonderful relationships and they're comfortable and they're very, very happy. So which word do you want to be? Do you want to have the material things? Do you want to have the money at the expense of friends and family? Or do you really want to have a well balanced life where you get up every single day excited about what the day is going to be and who you're going to be able to spend it with?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I call it my F to the sixth power, and it's faith, family, fitness, fun, firm, which is work for me, and then my finances, right? And those, and you just said most of those things right there. And I think I do a scorecard every 90 days for myself and for people I coach. And I think it's important to not let one get too far off the reserve, right? Because I think if we're not checking in with ourselves, in my opinion, weekly, if not, more often, but what have you done personally to make sure that one doesn't get, drift off to the side too far and it's almost too late to even bring it back?
Well, I believe it's never too late to bring it back. Obviously, your health is something that you can get too far to. You have to make some drastic changes. For me personally, I think we've had a pretty well balanced life. Very happy. Mike and I've been married 42 years. If anything, I dropped the ball on is probably my fitness because I was so focused on work and driving and doing other things. I didn't pay attention to my personal health, and that's one of the things we're focused on now is trying to get ourselves back on the at the prime level because we're both my husband's 73, I just turned 69, so it's
Yeah.
it's a big issue when you get to that last chapter of your life, so you want to make sure that you are able to fill it, live it with our youngest grandchild is 5. We want to see be very vital and be able to be there for her for a long time.
Yeah. How many grandkids do you have?
We have 4,
Awesome.
and we just the best thing on earth. In fact, I always tell people on stage now the only reason to be a parent is so you can become a grandparent. So we love it.
That's what Robin, who I work with here, she said, if I could do it again, I'd have my grandkids first. She's like, you just don't realize how special these grandbabies are. It's pretty awesome. So when you hear the word fear, you mentioned it earlier. So how many of the fears you've put in your mind have actually blown up to the magnitude you put them in your mind to be?
Well, fear is something that can get blown up very quickly in your subconscious. And the book Outwitting the Devil I wrote was originally written by Napoleon Hill as a sequel to Think and Grow Rich about overcoming fear. And I think it's really important. It was locked away for 72 years because his wife was afraid of the title. And so I had the honor to bring it out. But fear is debilitating. And the issue is do you let fear stop you? Fear either paralyzes us or motivates us. Most of us are paralyzed by fear.
Yeah.
But instead, look at that fear as motivation to take the next step and turn that fear into fuel and energy to keep moving in the right direction. And it's so important to understand fear is part of the human nature. And so when you're stepping outside your comfort zone to experience something new, there's going to be a little trepidation and fear, and turn that into excitement to keep going and fuel to keep experiencing something new in life.
That's great. So you talked about, or maybe you didn't talk about it, it was before we started recording, we talked about your ATMs. Talk to us a little bit about that. What are those? Where can people find them?
Sure. Well, I talk about successful businesses do one of two things: solve a problem or serve a need. And so when I get mad about something, Brett, I usually start a new company. And when the pandemic hit 3 years ago, I was just inundated. We all were, with all the negativity, the fear. I mean, you just didn't hear anything positive. And so I started a program called ATMs, and it's a daily deposit of abundance, tips, and mentorship. I do it every single morning, and it's delivered to you either by text or in your email. And it really is to get people started off understanding that you're perfect just the way you are. And that's what I want people to understand. You're perfect just the way you are. And you have an opportunity to seize the day or be paralyzed by it.
Yeah.
And so the ATM is really to talk at the end of each one. I say, you are fabulous. Say it with me. I am fabulous. Because each and every one of us, we can either be reactive in the life we live or proactive. And I want people to be proactive, to seize the day and create opportunities.
Yeah. And I think to your point there, that you are perfect, all those things you say to yourself, I mean, you start to believe them, right? The more you say them. And I think back to Think and Grow Rich, which obviously you're very, very familiar with that. Another book I read when I was 23, 24 years old that was very instrumental in my life. And if I remember correctly, I think they called it a desire statement. You know, we changed the name, I think, and basically stole the idea and said design statement. But it's true. And to this day, I still carry around things with me that I write to myself and that I read because you got to do it. I think it's so important in life to, what kind of parent do I want to be? What kind of spouse do I want to be? And where am I at now? Where do I want to be 3 years from now? And that got me through when I was on the grind and building it. And I think you're always on the grind a little bit if you keep growing. But really the grind early on, that was super, super important for me. And I know you've been a part of that. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you have to have, my dad taught me, map doesn't do you any good if you don't know where you are and where you want to go. And if you're just walking through life aimlessly, then you're going to be bounced around. You have to understand what it is you want out of life, both personally and professionally, and have a focus on how to get it. And now, obviously, you have to be resilient. You have to be able to change directions if you have to, but your overall goal doesn't change. When COVID hit, a lot of people were talking about they were having to pivot. And I said, no, you're not pivoting. You just need to adjust, recalibrate. If your goal is the same, your goal doesn't change. It's just the way you approach it has to change. I use the analogy, you want to sail your boat to Catalina Island from the coast of California, and the wind changes, your goal doesn't change, but you have to recalibrate, adjust your sails, and be able to get to where you want to go. It's the same thing in life. We think something's going to happen, it doesn't. We go, okay, well, that doesn't change my end goal. What do I need to do to get back on course?
Yep. Love it. So where do our listeners find more of Sharon Lechter?
Well, thank you, Brett. Yes, Sharon, I'm kind of Sharon Lechter everywhere. SharonLechter.com, Sharon Lechter on Instagram, Facebook, and my professional page, Author Sharon Lechter on Facebook. And then just welcome everybody to reach out to me, info@SharonLechter.com. I have information about my business retreats at my ranch in Arizona, business about mentoring, and my online programs are all SharonLechter.com.
Awesome. We'll put all that in the show notes. And Sharon, it's been so awesome having you. And I, again, just want to go back to think about a book that you read 20 years ago. And, that 20-year-old kid or 24-year-old kid, probably didn't think 20 years later he'd be interviewing one of the authors. And I just think it's funny how life works out. And I also think that, say it again.
You have first editions there, my dear. You still have
is that right? Yeah, it looks a little different now, doesn't it? But man, it's an amazing book, and what an impact that you've made in your career. So I just really appreciate you spending some time with us and our listeners today on the Circuit of Success.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you doing this. It's all power of association, so I'm happy to meet you, and I look forward to getting to know you even better.
Awesome. Thank you so much.